Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel again. We have some big news from the Etheria devs here. We have some content that is getting changed. They are nerfing stuff.
I'm gonna come.
Accessible for everyone out there. Well, maybe not everybody.
Come on, man.
So let's get into this. I think this is a good first step, but I think there's some other changes that really need to be made, and I'm gonna be making another video following up to this one on about the biggest change, and I have it all mathed out for the developers.
Cover, please. Get out of here.
I have it all mathed out for them
Get out of here, man.
to let them know exactly what needs to be changed as well as why. Now this is going to be, it looks like, a content change. Dear hyperlinkers, update notice. After the previous optimizations and adjustments, we have continued to listen to players' feedback and observe in-game data performance, which I do like to actually look at what's going on. Like, this is going to be like, what level are you when you stop clearing stuff? What achievements do you stop getting? Are you stuck at Hell 2? What does your account look like? Hopefully they're able to get some in-game data performance. That's what they're really looking at, to sort of see what the real roadblocks are and remove those roadblocks. But in my opinion, they need to be observing not just people who are going from Hell 4 to Inferno, right? There's going to be a couple other things down there where people are getting a little bit stuck. But continuing on, based on the current gaming experience and difficulty balancing, we've decided to promptly initiate a new round of adjustments, which I like. The game's only been out for like 2 weeks now, and this is like the second or third time they've changed things up. Listen, you can start weak. I would love it for you to start exceptionally strong when it comes to this sort of stuff. And it looks like, you know what? Maybe they're gonna be able to keep running some adjustments through here. We hope all hyperlinkers will keep sharing their valuable suggestions with us. We are committed to listening carefully to everyone's voices and working together to build a more exciting world of Etheria. So let's check this out. This is going to be implemented on the second UTC-5, which probably should be tonight. No action required. It's going to be a silent update, no maintenance or anything like that. They're going to be able to change the game fluidly, which is cool. Following the update, hyperlinkers can enjoy the new adjusted content below. We're also going to get 100 Hydra crystals as compensation, even though there's no maintenance. Fine, whatever. Lower the difficulty of Grim Pursuit, Nico Nana Inferno, which I thought they just changed, but I guess they're going to nerf it again, which is fine because Nico Nana is the first, I believe, the first of the Inferno shell bosses that you can fight. I've had this one on farm for a while, which, whatever. I'm using, what's my SR team? I like to use the girl Rin here, right? Rin the Unbowed, which is, I'm going to make an entire video about Rin the Unbowed on Nico Nana here for you. But they're going to be nerfing this fight. It's my setup. I know I'm a Lily. I'm a dirty Lily user, as some of you like to say out there. But they're going to nerf her HP, and they're going to reduce her attacks by 20%. And the biggest one here, speed by 10%. If you watch the video we put out yesterday, there's no reason for all of the bosses in the game to have like 350 speed. It's stupid. So hopefully we'll see more speed nerfs. Lower the difficulty of Grim Pursuit, Shadow Flame, Hoyen, Inferno level. Reduce the boss HP by 15%, attack by 10%, and the Duran, the adds attacks by 15% as well. Now, this might not seem like a big change here, but like 20% attack down and 15% and 10% attack down is huge when these bosses have giga high attack, right? When they have thousands and thousands of attacks. So this will help us hit those thresholds. It still is designed around you killing the boss before it kills you, which I'm not the biggest fan of for farming content. I don't think everything needs an enrage mechanic associated with it, right? You should be able to approach different fights in different ways, maybe a little bit slower, maybe a little bit safer, and farm up some of this content that way. But this is a nice start, and this is only for Inferno difficulty so far. Lower the difficulty for Doky Inferno, which is a big one. This is a first module change here for Threshold Doky. All monsters have 10% less health, and the big elite guy in the second wave has 20% lowered attack. Now, this one might not be enough. I know Doky, the HP threshold and the damage threshold that the mobs really put out is quite high. And the biggest thing going from Hell 4 to Inferno in the thresholds, which is Doky Terramatan, Aurora, is the bosses just have like so much more HP. So much more HP. To the point where you basically almost need to have Inferno level gear to defeat them with damage instead of dots and stuff like that. Or have just the right characters to sort of alleviate the necessity to do that much damage, which is why you see Lily everywhere. Speed buff is sort of like a secondary DPS because she drags your primary DPS to attack with her every single time, right? Very good character for that reason, which is why when we made the official before the game launch tier list, I said, Pridwin, what are you doing? This character's on a tier of her own. No one else can be Lily tier, only Lily. But I digress. Lower the difficulty of Ember Trek Sharon's boss HP by 25% in all 3 battle phases. I know a lot of players did get stuck in Sharon. Sharon is definitely like the first big thing in Ember Trek that players get stuck on because the boss just seems to have so much more HP for no reason whatsoever down in Ember Trek. And we'll touch on something else that got changed in Ember Trek. You can see it here. But Ember Trek Sharon just was like way too much, right? Because the boss has tons of health, and we can't see it here, but the boss, I do believe, is immune to all debuffs as well, which is just kind of crazy for that to be a thing. And a lot of players are relying on that defense break, that speed down, right, to just sort of do damage, and they get to this boss, they can't defense break anymore, and it's got way too much health, even in for something like Ember Trek, and this is normal mode. So they're reducing that by 25% in all 3 battle phases, which is huge. That's like an overall 75% HP reduction in that fight. So if you're just sort of barely not clearing that fight, you might be able to do it now, which is pretty cool. The rewards just reset too, because Ember Trek just reset. That's why you saw me not having everything done. Lower difficulty for Ember Trek Astarte Monster Alpha Disorder. All right, this is the big one here. This is the one, if you saw the video the other day, you know. All right, so this is something crazy. And also the biggest thing here that I see, effect accuracy reduced by 50%. So I don't know the exact formula. I don't know if anyone knows the exact formula yet. But when it comes to effect accuracy versus effect resistance in this game, the way that it works, it's not actually like a lot of other games. It actually is, as far as I know, and I could be entirely wrong, what it does is it changes the minimum and maximum threshold for you to land your debuff. So it's not like Honkai Star Rail where like you can just max out your effectiveness and take your 70% chance thing to go to like 400% chance, right? Or if you take someone like Yaylee, right, who has right up to a 30% chance to buff steal. You can't just stack like 200 effectiveness on your Yaylee and have her always have a chance to buff steal, right? Have it be like 230% chance. The way that it works is that there's a minimum percent and a maximum percent for you to land your buffs and debuffs. And the way that this works is the minimum is half of the base effect and the maximum is double of the base effect. So like the minimum here, not counting natty 10%, which is some other check entirely, would be 15% chance up to 60% chance for you to land in this situation here, buff steal on your Yaylee. There's another little mathematician thing going on, some sort of calculation that factors in effectiveness versus effect resistance as to how often you can have your buffs and debuffs landed or resisted. I don't know that sort of calculation there. I haven't seen that, but the word on the street is there's like a half to a minimum. And I see this all the time in Nico, Nana, Inferno, where people are like, they'll take the dot teams, right? They'll have 400% effectiveness on their Shadow Sani and all their dot characters. I have 0 effect accuracy on Ren the Unbowed, and I land this speed down constantly. And that's because this has a minimum, not counting the natty 10%, of 35% chance for me to land the speed down because the base effect is 70. And well, the minimum I can do is 35, even if I have 0 effect accuracy and the boss has 900% effect resistance, based off of what I've heard on the internet, what I've seen, and then also my own gameplay, right? Like I said earlier, I farm Nico, Nana, Inferno with Ren the Unbowed all of the time, and she can land this speed down very, very often. It seems like more than 35% chance to me, but it lands, right? Whereas it should be 0 if that sort of mechanic didn't exist. But the reason why that is so big is because this little ad that comes up in here, the little dart guy, says it has like a 30% chance to stun you at the start of your turn. But the way that I was saying they were scaling these bosses, they just go, okay, what's the percentage multiplier for their stats? Let's just increase all their stats, increase their health, increase their attack, increase their defense, increase their speed. Well, also it seems like they were just giving them effect accuracy, which would change that minimum to maximum percent chance of that 30% stun on that dark ad to just be way higher than 30%. So if you were getting very frustrated like I was with that dark ad always stunning you, it's because it wasn't 30%. It was probably on a lot of your characters, if they don't have any effect resistance, probably closer to 60%, right? Double the base chance. So that's going to be reduced. Hopefully this means they have 0 effect accuracy now. So it will be 30% chance of a stun every time you take your turn. And that mechanic will just no longer be as frustrating. Also, during the second wave, the bosses, the little ads, the five guys are going to have their attack reduced by 20%, which is very big because you needed just an ass crazy shit truckload of healing to make it through that second phase. With the fire ad doing AoE and the light ad always being there and hitting you for like a 600% damage multiplier every time you took an action. This is going to help out significantly there as well. And then finally, lower the difficulty of anti-sync echoes Heinrich normal, Marvel speed by 5, normal hard nightmare levels by 7% as well. Yeah, so check this one out. This one here, actually, this is where I am on anti-sync right now. This buff has not gone through yet. I'm currently on Heinrich as well. And just to show you what these speed decreases on these enemies are. Listen, I'm not the biggest Giga Whale or whatever. Here's my 315 speed Lily. Okay, let's go load into this fight real quick, just to see on normal mode for Heinrich here. How fast do they want you to be to clear normal mode content when this game came out? What were the devs thinking? Let's load in with my 300 speed Lily. Right? Let's see how fast these guys are. Holy shit, I got outsped by quite a lot. That is the fastest Dorothy the Wisher anyone has ever seen in their entire lives. That is like a 330, 340 speed Dorothy the Wisher. So yes, this change here is pretty significant. And like we were talking about in the previous video yesterday, we don't need to be making enemies have 500 million speed. I don't really know what the maximum amount of speed I could get a Lily to. I guess if I got Swift Rush plus Swift Raid at the same time and I got like a couple better rolls in my piece of gear, I could get to like 330, 345 instead of 315. What awaits me in like nightmare mode? What awaits me in all the other difficulties of future content coming out in this game? I'm not getting to 400 speed. There's no way to do that. So we really need to be taking a look at how we have the stats for our enemies tuned in this game for everything. And this includes not just Inferno content, which this is a good start, right? Inferno level content getting reduced across the board, but we need to be tuning up some of our fights. There's some things that, yeah, players are getting stuck on this. Obviously, they're looking at data, right? Yeah, if your players have 320, 330 speed characters, which isn't just some of the fastest stuff you can get right now, it's some of the fastest stuff you can get in the game realistically at this point, unless you're talking about having perfect rolled 15, 16, 17, 18 speed in every slot gear with Swift Raid plus Swift Rush on a 127, 128 fastest base speed character in the game. Maybe if your enemies are outspeeding that just because you put a multiplier on the enemy stats as they went through the difficulty of the anti-sync echoes or Ember Trek or Grim Pursuit or whatever, maybe you need to take a step back and adjust that content as well, right? Adjust that content now instead of like maybe in the future when people get stuck on it again. Otherwise, you're just gonna have to keep band-aid fixing your own game. And that is sort of like a design failure in the development where you didn't have the foresight. Someone didn't crunch the numbers of like, what is the maximum amount of stats like not even just a player could get at this moment at level 40 or account level 50. What is the maximum amount of stats a player can get, period, right? If your enemies are just better than that, just cause on normal mode, maybe we need to be looking a little bit differently there. But like I said, this is pretty good. It's a nice step. I like that they're quick on it, but we need to be adjusting some other stuff. And really it's coming down to the economy of the game, players not being able to actually gain access. Even if they're farming, they're doing everything correctly because it's a gacha game. There's still some RNG in the substats that your gear rolls and the gear that drops. And it can't be as punishing as it is right now. I'm going to immediately go math out that video to show just how bad the economy can be. We had like a half an hour long video on it yesterday that sort of dealt with other stuff. But that one's going to be entirely on the economy. If you want to see that breakdown, hit that sub, come back for more. All right, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care, guys.